As the plane approached its final descent at 2 in the morning, Olivia shook her head at the city lights below them. At first, it looked like any other city, but as they got closer, she saw ancient stone buildings and edges of awe-inspiring Italian architecture. She wished she could have seen it in the daylight. "Rome," she said as she turned to Chris, still in confusion and disbelief. She wondered to herself, why did he bring me to such a distant place in the middle of the night? I've never heard him mention wanting to go to Rome before. He only raised his eyebrows at her, mischievously refusing to give her any answers. The plane landed, and as they descended from the plane onto the tarmac, a black town car rolled up to greet them. Its driver's seat window rolled down, and a beautiful, familiar woman waved enthusiastically at Olivia. "Long time no see." "Vera?" Olivia called out. "Is this where you've been hiding? Have you been in Rome all this time?" Vera got out of the car and hugged Olivia and Chris hello. "It is," she replied. "We have some business to attend to here, so I'm staying for the time being. It's not a bad place to be." Olivia nodded. "I get it, but it's been so long since I've seen you." "I know." Vera adjusted the mirror to make eye contact as they all got into the car. "How's your homework going?" she asked. "Not bad," Olivia laughed. "You taught me well." "That's right," Vera huffed, joking. "Sven said you're excelling because you have great teachers at Marshall. I don't believe that any high school teacher can compare to me." Olivia laughed. "We do have a great one. I'm in Adam Reed's class." Vera gasped, pretending to be offended. "Do you think Adam Reed is smarter than me? What degrees does he have?" Olivia sensed there was something slightly prickly underneath Vera's joking. She replied awkwardly, "I don't know, actually." "You're so sweet," Vera smiled. "You don't want to offend anyone, do you?" "Forget I asked. I'll spare you." "Thank you," Olivia laughed. Vera looked brightly at Chris, seeming very chipper for the middle of the night. "Chris Jones, should we go home first, or—" "Let's go straight there," Chris said with a sigh, looking out the window. "I haven't been here for a long time." "Yes," Vera answered, becoming more serious. Olivia noticed this mood shift in both of them and thought it was very odd. She had no idea what the change in atmosphere was a result of. The quiet suddenly felt oppressive. Vera pressed a button, turning on the radio, and moody Italian pop emanated from the car's speakers. Olivia tried to pick out the words, but her Italian was very rusty. She leaned against the door and looked out of her own window as they sped into the unfamiliar city. In Olivia's previous life, she recalled that she had briefly visited Rome once. She was accompanying Pamela Cox to participate in some elite business training or something like that. She was completely absorbed in Pamela's irritable, stressed-out mood. She just remembered that Rome had been crowded, noisy, dirty, and old. But as she watched the mostly empty streets pass them by, she had a completely different impression. The buildings were beautiful, ethereal, and ancient. The mix of old and new was surreal. She thought about how she needed to see as much of it as possible when she was there and drifted off to sleep. She dreamt of standing on the top of a huge Roman building with Chris, teetering on the roof tiles. She slipped and tried to grab onto him. She looked down at the dizzying street below her, her fingers unable to take hold of his shirt. Would she make it? "She fell asleep," Vera said softly. Chris nodded. "I knew this would happen, flying in so late." "How did you get her to come here?" Vera teased with a smile. Chris rolled his eyes. "I didn't trick her. She didn't even ask where we were going until we got on the plane." Vera shook her head. "That's really cute. She trusts you." Her eyes darkened. "Have you really decided?" Chris rubbed his jaw. "Yes, I have." Vera flexed her hands nervously on the steering wheel. "This is a little dangerous. Are you sure she's willing to take this risk with you?" Chris looked at Olivia sleeping beside him and smiled. "I'm sure she is. I'm confident," he answered. "Always such an arrogant young man," Vera smiled. but at least you can back up your arrogance where it counts. Or do you think she doesn't know the real risks because you've protected her too well in the past?" Chris nodded, his ego a little inflated from Vera's comments, but he did feel concerned at the idea that Olivia wouldn't be fully aware of what she was getting herself into with him. He cared about her so much and hoped that she was excited to be by his side. Vera glanced at his troubled face. Olivia's not the kind of person who knows how to be someone's accessory or cheerleader. She has her own thoughts. The kind of relationships you've had in the past don't make sense for someone like her. "I know," Chris nodded. "Every time I think I have her figured out, she surprises me again." He ignorantly thought he was in a relationship with a shy girl in the beginning. Step by step, this girl became a queen who ran an empire. "I think so too," Vera agreed. "You needed someone like that too. Only with someone like her could we move forward together and fulfill your lifelong dream." Chris's face darkened. "Those people," he thought to himself. "I still need to find them one by one, and I will kill them all." He shook off those thoughts, remembered he owed Vera a reply. He cleared his throat. "Since I've decided to show her that place today, then that'll be it. It will be real. I'll make everyone acknowledge her." Vera raised the corner of her mouth in a smirk. "Will it scare her?" "You know, there's a time when I would have thought so," Chris smiled. "But now, I don't know what she could possibly be afraid of. She might be the bravest person I've ever met." "That's good." Vera cocked an eyebrow at him through the rearview mirror. Privately, she wondered whether the relationship between these two young people could truly withstand the impact of reality. She noticed Chris place his hand on Olivia's hand. She did know that through all they'd experienced so far, they still turned toward one another. She hoped they would always react to struggles like they did in that moment. The car drove smoothly through the streets of Rome as the sun rose through puffy clouds. Olivia rubbed her eyes and awoke from her dream. She had been squished against the door as she slept and immediately put a hand to her face and corners of her mouth, fearing the worst. She noticed Chris smiling at her and her stomach dropped. "Are you worried you drooled?" he teased. "You didn't." "Stop," she laughed. "You did snore a little, though," he continued. "No way." She turned to Vera. "Did I really?" "Leave me out of it," Vera protested with a laugh. Olivia suddenly drew in a sharp breath in pain and put a hand on her neck. "What is it? Are you hurt?" Chris leaned toward her, concerned. "Just my neck," she explained, trying to wave his concern away. "That's what I get for sleeping in the car." "Here, let me," he said, as one of his hands slid behind her neck, feeling like it could span her whole back if he stretched it out flat. She slightly angled herself toward him. She noticed Vera glance back at them, then return her eyes to the road. "We aren't doing anything wrong," Olivia thought to herself. "Right?" "Where does it hurt?" he asked softly. She gestured in response. "Along this whole side." His fingers made gentle circles around the area, and she frowned as her stiff muscles held their ground against him, before finally melting at his touch, growing more and more relaxed. He patiently continued, soothing her pain. "Is that feeling better?" he asked. "So much better," she said. "Thank you." She thought about the skilled violence his hands had done, that he'd spent so much time training to do, and the way he was using one to heal her now. Her stomach fluttered at the thought. Olivia felt the car smoothly brake to a stop. "We're here," Vera said. The serious air between Vera and Chris returned as Olivia saw where they had come to a stop. From where the car was parked, they overlooked beautiful Italian countryside. Before them were the many tombstones, walkways, peeling plaster walls, and decaying flowers of a crumbling ancient graveyard. "What are we doing here?" Olivia wondered silently. She got out of the car, taking in the place that Chris had flown them to Rome for a graveyard. The somber air between Chris and Vera told her to keep her thoughts to herself for now. The rolling hills that surrounded the graveyard looked just like the image of the Italian countryside that Olivia thought must have been a stereotype. Pointed cypress trees lined the crumbling plaster walls around all the tombstones and monuments. Purple wisteria hung from the closest graveyard wall. The hill nearest them was covered in a vineyard. Morning haze clung to the hills and valleys. Every time she left New York and got outside a major city, she was always surprised at how good the air smelled. It felt so clean and green and brisk. After taking in the scenery around her, Olivia's eyes rested again on Chris, who stared grimly ahead into the graveyard. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. She realized with the start that he had just been massaging her neck, knowing that they were about to come here. She felt a mixture of sympathy and gratitude for how he must have felt, and what he did for her in the midst of that feeling. Chris nodded. "I am." He held his hand out to her and she took it. "Come this way." Chris led her into the graveyard and Vera followed them for a short distance behind. Olivia glanced at a few of the tombstones and grandeur monuments that they passed, noticing that there was a mixture of older and newer souls in this ground. She looked up at what she could see of Chris's face from behind as he led her, hoping he was okay. "Who have you brought me here to see?" She thought to herself, puzzled, but did not dare break the respectful silence. She would let him direct this journey however he wished. Whoever he had brought her here to see, she knew this must be important. Olivia looked back at Vera, who looked up at the sky as she walked. Vera's eyes were rimmed in red. Chris turned down a couple of winding paths and slowly stopped. "We're here." Olivia stood beside him and followed his gaze toward a simple, square gravestone. A picture was embedded into the gravestone behind glass, and a gentle beauty smiled in the picture. She had shallow dimples in her cheeks and watercolored eyes that were as beautiful as they were familiar. "Mom," Chris said to the gravestone, "we're here to see you." Olivia had put it together by that time, but her heart still dropped hearing Chris say those words. "Hi, Auntie," Vera whispered beside him. A tear fell down her cheek onto her shoe. Chris put his hand around Olivia's shoulders. "Olivia, this is my mother." He smiled, gesturing to Olivia. "Mom, this is your future daughter-in-law." Olivia did not know what to say, but felt so touched that she thought she might break into sobs. For everything she had been through in both her lives, she thought of Chris losing his mother felt like almost too much to bear. It was so unfair. She still remembered the gentleness and longing in Chris's eyes when he talked about his mom. Vera nudged her gently with a smile. "You can say hi to your future mother-in-law. I know it's weird, but don't be shy. It feels kind of good." Olivia swallowed, thinking to herself that Vera's assessment of it being weird was very accurate. But she wanted to do the right thing for Chris at this moment. "Hello, I'm so happy to meet you," Olivia said, her voice cracking. Chris rubbed her arm. Olivia felt her courage grow. "Chris has told me so many wonderful things about you. I'm so sorry I didn't bring you anything." Chris waved her comment away. "It's fine." "Oh," Olivia said suddenly. Chris and Vera blinked. "I'll be right back." Olivia continued as she hurried away from them. Chris and Vera watched Olivia walk as quickly as she respectfully could back the way they came, and then looked at each other confused. "Well, you finally did it, Chris," Vera said dryly. "You scared Olivia off. I guess talking to your dead mom was one too many things." Chris narrowed his eyes through the headstones, trying to make out where Olivia went. She reappeared on the path toward him, happily holding up a couple of bunches of wisteria. "I brought her flowers," Olivia cried. "Sorry, I should have asked you if she likes these, or if she even likes purple. Was this a bad thing to do?" "It's perfect," Chris replied. Olivia nodded and put the flowers down against the gravestone. Chris clasped his hands. "Oh, I just remembered. She actually said these flowers make her nauseous. She hated them so much." Olivia gasped. "Really? I'm so sorry." "I'm messing with you," Chris grinned. "Like I said, they're perfect." Olivia's mouth hung open indignantly. "Can you mess with people in a graveyard?" I don't know if you can call me out on things. This is my dead mom." Chris wagged a finger. Vera took Olivia's hand. Okay, you two, enough. Olivia, I'm putting you out of your misery. Come grab a candle with me and we'll light it for her. Olivia laughed and nodded helplessly, following after Vera. Chris smiled as they left, but his smile gradually disappeared. He looked back to his mother's picture, now alone with her. He sighed and squatted down, looking at the picture eye to eye. Do you like her, Mom? He asked. She's so pretty, isn't she? And of course, she had to run back and get you flowers. She didn't even know we were coming here, but that's exactly who she is. Chris ran a hand through his hair, a look of bitterness crossing his face. At first, I didn't like this arranged marriage at all. Grandpa set it up and I was so mad. But now I like her so much. I didn't think I'd ever bring anyone to see you, but it felt right to bring her to see you. I hope you think she's good enough to have made the trip. He reached out a finger to trace the carvings in her stone. He blinked and a tear fell. Then another. He furiously wiped his eyes and sniffed. Mom, I hope that the next time I bring her here, we're married. I hope she wants to call you Mom, and I'm sure she'll bring you something gorgeous when she actually has time to plan. The soft, caring warmth in his voice melted into an angry frown. Don't worry. I will still settle all the debts with all of those people who caused you harm. Not one of them will get away with it. I swear they will all pay in blood. Olivia and Vera walked back together holding tea candles from where some caretaker left them out for mourners in a wooden box. Olivia remembered back to when she had been at her ancestral family graves of the Jarbaldis in the Jones Manor. She had been in so much pain that she couldn't control herself at all when she was there. But she felt nothing here. It was peaceful. Vera, is the rest of your family buried here? Olivia asked, curious. They aren't, are they? They're not, Vera answered bitterly. My aunt's last words before she died was that she wished to return to Rome. None of her family or the Jones family are buried here, but I thought she would have loved this place. Olivia nodded. She looked at Chris's back as they approached him where he squatted, face to face with his mother. Olivia thought that he looked so lonely and little there that it made her heart ache. Here, Chris, she said, squatting down next to him. She leaned gently against him and handed him the tea candle. From his other side, Vera handed him a matchbook. Chris lit the candle and set it on the edge of the small base of the gravestone, casting a flicker on the glass that covered his mother's picture. Chris handed back the matchbook and Vera lit her own candle, placing it beside Chris's. Chris and Olivia stood beside Vera. He wrapped his arms around both of them. Olivia looked at his mother's picture and sighed. When she first saw the picture, she was so surprised by her beauty that she hadn't noticed. But now she saw the loneliness in her eyes. Though she was smiling in the picture, Olivia could tell that she was lonely. Chris looked so much like her. Vera checked her phone. All right, we should go. If we stay much longer, we won't be able to catch the flight back home. Chris nodded. Yeah, let's go. He took one last long look at the tombstone and turned away. Olivia took his hand in hers and found it cold. He looked at her, and she gave him a look filled with all the love and sympathy she felt for him, and the anger she felt that he had to miss his mother this way. No matter what happens, she thought, I'll stay by your side through anything, Chris. Olivia looked at the picture of Chris's mother and again took in the loneliness she saw in her eyes. Her eyes feel so familiar. It's almost like looking at Chris's eyes, Olivia thought. She made a silent promise to herself and to Chris then, deep down in her heart. As long as I'm around, Chris will never have that look of loneliness. Chris met Olivia's eyes and there was a gentleness in his gaze. He could not help smiling at her softly, and he reached out to wrap Olivia in his arms. He held her close and lightly planted a kiss on her forehead. Vera watched Olivia and Chris show their affection for each other, and she looked away shyly. It's nice that Chris has that in his life, she thought. She was glad that even after so much loss, Chris had found someone to be there for him. She chuckled to herself, remembering all the times Sven texted her to complain about Chris and Olivia's PDA. But it didn't bother her, at least not in this context. Maybe all the time it would get annoying, but for now it was sweet. Okay, time to go. Vera gently nudged. Chris and Olivia just looked at each other and smiled. They were used to Sven's heckling by now, so Vera's subtle hint was pretty easy by comparison. Without saying a word, Olivia sweetly took Chris's hand and they started to walk toward the exit of the graveyard. Olivia, thank you. A soft, gentle voice sighed. Olivia heard the voice so clearly that she thought someone had just whispered right into her ear. She whipped around to see who spoke to her, but there was no one there at all. A leaf fell from a nearby tree and gently floated down to the ground, followed by silence. Olivia smiled softly. You're welcome, she said quietly under her breath. What is it? Chris asked. He looked at Olivia, his brow furrowed in confusion. Nothing. Olivia smiled and linked her arm with Chris's, steering him toward the exit. It sounded like you said something just now, Chris insisted. It did? I didn't say anything. Olivia smiled. You're joking. I totally heard you say something, Chris said. You sure it wasn't the wind? You might just be hearing things. Olivia shook her head and shrugged. I wish I didn't have to lie, but I can't exactly explain to Chris that I probably just heard a ghost. What else will I have to explain? Olivia thought. I'm sure it wasn't the wind. Stop fooling around and just tell me what you were muttering about, Chris asked, growing impatient. Olivia, come up here and walk with me. Vera waved Olivia forward. You leave her alone. You probably just heard a ghost, Vera teased. You have no idea, Olivia thought. She was relieved to have an out and hurried to catch up with Vera. He always insists on being right, Vera said to Olivia with a laugh. Chris followed behind the two women, shaking his head. Maybe it was just all in my head, he thought. Or maybe it was a ghost. Chris considered, then laughed at himself. Olivia and Chris made it back onto the plane and they got settled in their seats for takeoff. Olivia took Chris's hand again, and he knew it was the right decision to bring her on the trip. As they climbed through the clouds and looked out at the impossibly big sky through their little windows, Olivia and Chris were lost in their own thoughts. They settled in for the long flight home. Little did Chris and Olivia know that during their peaceful ride in the sky, that back in New York, a certain someone in the Rose Company CEO's office was having a full-blown meltdown. Damn you, Olivia! Mark shouted as he angrily slapped the social section of the latest newspaper down on the table. Why did I even bother to spend so much money to sponsor the New York City Chamber of Commerce? It was supposed to be great PR for the Rose Company's opening today. I worked my ass off to get all of the New York business elites together in one place so that I would be the headline in every major magazine and newspaper. But what do I see instead? Paparazzi photos of Olivia and stupid Chris Jones on a date. Mark glared at the paper on the table. It was a full-page close-up photo of Olivia and Chris, hand in hand with any mention of him or the Rose Company nowhere in sight. It's the entire page! Mark seethed. The park company's president enjoys night out with handsome young man, the headline read. Mark looked at the photo of Olivia smiling sweetly as she ate an ice cream, while Chris had his hand outstretched to wipe some ice cream off the corner of her mouth. Below the photo were more photos of the two of them getting into a car and arriving at the airport. What a disgusting ploy. And people just eat this up. Mark fumed. He had checked online and the coverage was even more relentless there. Article after article and listicle after listicle was dedicated to Olivia and her romantic European adventure. Mark was at a loss. He had schemed and planned in advance of the Rose Company's opening day to have the perfect press attention. I donated so much money. I went to every charity event. I sponsored the damn New York City Chamber of Commerce banquet, for crying out loud. But none of it is enough to get an ounce of attention up against gossip about Olivia Johnson. Mark stewed until he could not keep it in anymore. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Mark roared in his office. "Damn Olivia all the way to outer space. I did everything I could. But it's no match for Olivia eating ice cream on a weeknight. Has everyone in New York lost their minds?" After this, who's going to care about the opening of the Rose Company? Mark thought, and a new wave of anger washed over him. Mark slapped his glass of water off of his desk. The glass shattered on the ground. Mark's eyes were red with anger. Olivia tries to ruin everything. Mark scanned social media, hopeful for any mention of his business. Instead, he found posts about Olivia's flight information, reports on the paparazzi frenzy that surrounded the airport awaiting Olivia and Chris's arrival, and bystanders who had no idea what was going on but filmed the crowd just in case. Everyone breathlessly awaited any new detail on the private life of this elite young businesswoman from New York City. It was every media outlet's dream. "Ah!" Mark yelled again in anger. He threw his phone on the ground in disgust and ripped up one of the papers on his desk to shreds. Olivia and Chris soon discovered that they were the world's new obsession the moment they got off the plane. They were met with shouts and camera flashes. "Miss Johnson, can I ask you about the relationship between you and this young man?" A reporter shouted over the noise of the crowd. "Olivia, do you think high school students should be out late at night?" Another reporter asked, "Do your parents know what you're up to? Have they met this young man? Is he your boyfriend? Olivia! Olivia! Olivia!" The reporters all shouted over each other. Olivia listened briefly to the onslaught of questions, and she quickly pieced together what the fuss was about. Chris frowned at the aggressive crowd and their personal questions, and positioned himself protectively in front of Olivia. He was visibly agitated and about ready to take anyone out if he had to. "Who gave away our flight information?" he thought angrily. "Whoever did this has no idea who they're dealing with. They better hope I don't find out who they are, because if I do, they are going to regret it." Olivia looked at Chris and saw how protective he was being of her. It made her smile. Even though I don't actually need it, Chris being ready to protect me does still feel pretty good. Olivia laughed to herself. She reached up and touched Chris's arm to calm him, then smiled at the reporters. "I haven't had a chance to introduce you yet." The crowd of paparazzi and reporters all quieted down when they heard Olivia's tantalizing announcement. Everyone stared at Olivia, waiting for whatever big news she might reveal. All of the onlookers noted that the young man accompanying Olivia seemed to be very handsome, but he was not a recognizable celebrity as far as anyone knew. "Perhaps he's a model," Olivia heard someone in the crowd mentally guess, and she couldn't help but laugh to herself. She wished she could tell Chris and that they would laugh about it together. But instead, she smiled sweetly at the crowd and proudly took Chris's hand. Olivia cleared her throat and spoke loudly. "This is Chris Jones, my fiancé." Olivia's announcement of her engagement was like a bomb going off. The crowd of reporters, paparazzi, and fans that had gathered at the airport gasped in shock. Chris, who still stood protectively in front of Olivia to fend off the crowd, also turned to stare at Olivia in shock. Did she just publicly admit I'm her fiancé? Chris wondered in disbelief. As the reality sunk in, Chris was more and more thrilled. He smiled and wrapped his arm around Olivia's waist. Then he kissed her on the cheek. The public display of affection ignited a new round of camera flashes and eagerly shouted questions. Chris was on top of the world. He thought about how far he and Olivia had come from the days of not even being able to admit they liked each other. Now she is announcing our relationship to a crowd of reporters and cameras. Who would have thought? Chris thought to himself in disbelief. He couldn't remember the last time he felt that happy. Olivia smiled confidently and took Chris's sunglasses off his face. The cameras and crowd went wild. Olivia spoke in a voice low enough that only Chris could hear. Sorry, your days of public anonymity are over. Chris laughed. Not everyone's going to get pictures of the bags under my eyes. You look great because you got to sleep for the whole plane ride. Chris teased. I couldn't sleep at all. Sven is going to get his hands on one of these pictures of me looking like a mess and he'll frame it. Just watch. Chris whispered back to Olivia. Olivia laughed. You look fine. They all think you're very handsome. Olivia nodded at the enthusiastic crowd. Well, I only care about what you think. Chris whispered into her ear. Olivia smiled and blushed. The crowd loved it and more cameras flashed. Olivia tried to blink away all of the white spots in her vision. Then the endless stream of questions started. Chris, have you set a wedding date yet? One reporter asked. I'll have to talk to Olivia about that, Chris answered charmingly. Chris, are you guys going to have the wedding in London or New York? Another reporter asked. That's also up to Olivia, Chris said with a smile. Chris, are you comfortable with Olivia being the breadwinner and superstar in the relationship? Or do you expect to have a more traditional arrangement after you're married? A reporter asked. Of course, I'm okay with it. Why would I want her to slow down? What year is it? You should really be asking her about her own plans, not me. I don't decide anything for her. Chris laughed off the question. Do you expect her to take your last name or keep the name Johnson? A different reporter questioned. I don't care what last name she has. I love her and I'm just happy she wants to marry me. Chris shrugged. The crowd sighed and buzzed with excitement over Chris's answer. He had definitely left a very positive impression in his media debut. Thanks, everyone. We're pretty tired from traveling, so please excuse us. Olivia smiled and waved to the cameras. She took Chris's hand and led him away, and security helped them get to their car. The crowd was in a complete frenzy. Wow, Olivia Johnson is so lucky, many of the onlookers exclaimed. You mean he's lucky to land her? Someone corrected. Chris Jones is so handsome and Olivia is so beautiful. The two of them together are going to blow up the internet, a reporter said excitedly. They're like the new Zendaya and Tom Holland, only even richer. A fan sighed. No way, those two were in the movies together and had a whole will they, won't they for a long time. That's hard to beat. Another female fan argued. The girl's boyfriend shook his head skeptically. Olivia Johnson is like the top business genius in New York City right now, and she's only 18 years old. She's been running her own empire since she was 16 years old. And she was the Chef Theodore's apprentice by the age of 17. That's way cooler than being an actor or a model, he insisted. The girl stared at her boyfriend, speechless. What? Olivia Johnson is a celebrity in the business world? It's not that weird that I know all this. He shrugged. His girlfriend scowled and rolled her eyes. Hey, all I'm saying is she's got a lot more going for her than the average celebrity. He shrugged. No one is better than Zendaya and Tom Holland. You have to take that back, his girlfriend said. She pointed her finger at him as a warning and folded her arms, waiting. I'm not taking anything back. In a head-to-head competition, I would bet on Olivia Johnson every single time. It's just the facts, the boyfriend replied. Since when do you know anything about celebrity couples? His girlfriend retorted. I don't. I just know Olivia Johnson is the superstar of our generation, he answered matter-of-factly. The couple continued to argue about the merits of Olivia Johnson and Chris Jones being the best new it couple. The crowd around them was deep in similar discussions, and every media outlet was ready to explode with Olivia and Chris fever. After leaving the airport, Chris put his sunglasses back on. Olivia chuckled and nodded at Chris's sunglasses. Why did you put those sunglasses on again? She asked. Sven is going to pick me up later. I was serious when I said I didn't want him to see me looking like a tired mess. Chris joked. He finished laughing and his expression changed to tenderness as he looked at Olivia's face. Olivia blushed a little under Chris's intent gaze. You've had a pretty happy-looking smile on your face this whole time. Why? Of course I'm happy and smiling, Olivia said. I'm sure this whole thing will dominate the news for at least a few weeks, maybe a month. Chris furrowed his brow in confusion. What do you mean? Mark DeLillo had the opening day for the Rose Company today. Olivia smiled slyly. I'm sure he's seen the lack of coverage in the papers and he's dying right about now. Olivia thought for a moment, then added, Actually, he can't be dead yet because it's only going to get worse for him over the next few weeks when he sees no one is talking about the Rose Company. Oh, Chris said, surprised at Olivia's answer. He remained quiet for a moment. What? Don't you see we absolutely ruined Mark DeLillo's PR plan? All of his preparations were completely wasted because we are the big news story instead of him. Olivia took a deep breath and let out a long, satisfied sigh. Just thinking about it feels amazing. Chris stammered, still speechless for a moment. I feel pretty stupid, I guess, because I thought you were happy and proud to publicly announce that I'm your fiancé, Chris said. I didn't realize this was all about Mark. Olivia felt her face get hot. In her moment of triumph over Mark, she had completely forgotten that Chris had no real context for her righteous plans to get revenge on Mark, and that, of course, he would want her happiness to be about him instead. I really have to be more careful about when and how I do my victory dances, Olivia chided herself. Olivia laughed, then reached out and took Chris's hand. Chris, come on, I was just kidding. I didn't think your feelings would get hurt that fast. She chuckled as she squeezed his hand reassuringly. Chris furrowed his brow, still unsure. So this wasn't all just a stunt to ruin Mark's business opening? Why would you joke about that? I mean, it's like the cherry on the top, but of course I really am happy about showing you off to the world. Come on, you've joked about some questionable things in the past too. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. Please don't be upset. I care about you way more than I care about dunking on Mark, although it is still pretty fun. It's so easy to do. Olivia looked hopefully into Chris's eyes. Chris tried to keep a stern face, but he couldn't help laughing. It is very easy to dunk on Mark DeLillo. Chris agreed. Well, as long as you're really happy, I'm happy. And screwing up Mark's plans is a cherry on top. Olivia felt Chris affectionately squeeze her hand back, and she knew all was well. She felt a wave of relief that she had successfully put out that little fire. She had absolutely no way of being able to explain the truth of why it was so important to run Mark DeLillo as far into the ground as possible. If in some world she could explain that Mark had helped murder her in her past life, she knew Chris would seek revenge just as passionately as she did, if not more so. For now, she would just have to be more careful about how much she shared with Chris. Just then, a car with black windows pulled up to the curb in front of them. The window rolled down slowly, and a voice ominously said, "Get in." Sven? Chris asked as he peered into the dark car. "Mwahaha, it is me, Sven," Sven said in a deep vampire voice. He held his own cell phone light under his chin to illuminate his face like he was about to tell a ghost story. Olivia and Chris visibly relaxed as soon as they recognized their familiar, ridiculous friend. Speaking of bad jokes, Olivia muttered as they got into the car. "You guys look so nervous." Sven laughed at Chris and Olivia in the rearview mirror as he drove. "Who else do you think would pick you up other than your old pal Sven?" "I figured it out pretty quickly. The mwahaha was a new one." Chris rolled his eyes good-naturedly. "Now I can finally ask you why you ignored all my texts last night," Sven complained. Chris shrugged apologetically. "I was on a date." "I gathered that from every single news headline today," Sven grumbled. "You couldn't answer just one quick one? Takes like 2 seconds. You wouldn't mind, Olivia, right?" "I wouldn't mind. Chris is just rude like that. We'll try to work on it," Olivia joked. "If I'm on a date, I'm on a date," Chris protested. Sven threw up his hands and began ranting for comedic effect. "Yes, we all know you were on the most amazing date. Having a girlfriend is awesome. Let's all remember that Sven is single and rub it in his face again. It's not even that Sven can't get a girlfriend. He just doesn't want to find one right now, okay? He could get one at any time. What's so great about girlfriends anyway?" Olivia and Chris were giggling at Sven's performance when the car in front of them suddenly screeched to a halt. "Ah, shit!" Sven shouted in surprise as he braked for their lives as hard as he could. With an ear-piercing screech, the car skidded to a stop as Sven just managed to avoid crashing into the car that stopped in front of them. Fortunately, the car behind them had enough room to stop without rear-ending them as well. Olivia's head followed the inertia of the car and slammed forward from the sudden stop. She felt as if she were outside of her body watching herself in slow motion, and she fully expected her face to hit the seat in front of her. She instinctively shut her eyes tight, but the expected pain never came. When she opened her eyes and looked up, she saw that Chris had stuck out his hand just in time to stop her face from hitting the seat. "Are you all right?" Chris asked in a dazed voice. He had successfully protected Olivia's head from hitting the seat, but in the process his own head had knocked into the seat in front of him. He blinked at the stars that danced in front of his eyes. "I'm fine," Olivia answered. "What about you? You're the one who hit your head," Olivia exclaimed. She was touched that he had instinctively protected her without a second thought, but she was frustrated that she didn't think fast enough to protect him. "People are driving like idiots out here," Sven complained. "You think this is some kind of video game?" Sven turned on the emergency flashers, took off his seatbelt, and opened the driver's side door. "Sven, where are you going?" Olivia asked, worried about what he might do. "I'll be right back," Sven said to Olivia and Chris. He had a dark expression on his face. The other driver better be in the middle of having a heart attack or something to explain this, or else they're going to regret this stunt for the rest of their life. They're lucky I have the best brake pads money can buy. I'm going to find out what kind of garbage driver this is and give them a little driver's ed. "Hey, wait!" Olivia called out to Sven, but he was already out of the car. "Let him go," Chris Jones said, holding his head. "Someone needs to give that driver a talking to. It might as well be Sven. We're lucky Sven has such good driving skills. With anyone else behind the wheel, this definitely would have been a really bad accident, and we'd be all splattered on the road right now." Olivia looked through the windshield at the other car. Sven walked towards it. I hope for their sake that they are having a heart attack. Yeah, or an assassin took them out on the road with a sniper rifle," Chris said seriously. Olivia snorted darkly but saw Chris's serious face. "Sorry, I forgot you've actually lived through stuff like that." "It's all right," Chris shrugged. When Sven finally approached the other car, he saw the door was left ajar and the driver's seat was empty. A terrified-looking man sat in the passenger seat, still in shock from the near collision. "Hey!" Sven called out to the man. The man whimpered and could not form any words. Sven impatiently waved his hand at the blubbering man and walked around to the front of the car. He found a short-haired woman squatting down on the ground with her back to him. "Hey, do you know that you can't just slam on your brakes like that in the middle of the road?" Sven asked irritably. "What can I do?" The girl stood up and turned to look at Sven. "I almost ran it over and killed it." She held a cat in her arms. "I don't care if you killed it or not. You almost killed us. That's what I care about." Sven yelled incredulously. He stared at the girl holding the cat in front of him, and something about her seemed familiar. I... The girl stammered, stunned by Sven's yelling. You seem to be fine?" "Are you kidding me? What?" Sven exclaimed, his eyes bulging. He could not believe this girl. "It was an accident," the girl said defensively. "It's not like I purposely thought, I hope that guy dies right now." "What is wrong with you? Stopping in the middle of the highway when we're going over 60 is definitely going to get someone killed. What don't you understand about that?" Sven cried. "If it wasn't for my excellent reflexes, and they are excellent, you and this stupid cat and everyone would be dead right now." "This is a weird time to brag, but okay," the girl snorted. "Is something wrong with your brain?" Sven scowled. "Don't you know that people like you are the reason people get killed on the road every day?" "What do you mean people like me? Is it because I'm a woman?" the girl yelled. "No, wrong. I'm not disparaging women. I'm disparaging you and your garbage driving," Sven shouted in exasperation. Sven pointed at the girl angrily. I'm warning you. You better not get behind the wheel of anything that moves. You're a death trap waiting to happen." "You—" The girl trembled with anger. "Are you threatening me?" "Am I threatening you? Don't downplay it," Sven sneered. "I am promising I will prevent you from driving ever again." "You're the meanest man I've ever met," the girl shouted angrily and hugged the cat to her. "You're the most brainless person I've ever met," Sven snorted. Just then, the man who had sat petrified in the passenger seat emerged from the car. "Miss, calm down." "Albert, get back in the car and wait." The girl yelled at the man. "You stay out of this." "You can be as reckless as you want with your own life. I don't care. But don't drag the rest of us into your death wish with you," Sven yelled. "You!" the girl started to say, but Albert reached out and pulled her arm to stop her. "Forget it. We're the ones at fault. I told you that you shouldn't drive, but you didn't listen. Why did you have to drive? I don't know how you got your driver's license, but that car ride was even more terrifying than the wildest roller coaster." The girl stammered at Albert, "but I was trying to save the cat. And you almost caused a whole chain of accidents just now." Albert nodded as he pulled the girl's arm to get her back into the car. "You need to quiet down now." "Where do you think you're going? We're not done here," Sven said coldly. "Take out your driver's license. I want to see it," Sven demanded. "You!" The girl scrunched up her face angrily. "Are you implying I don't have a driver's license?" "Yes, I am. I'll believe it when I see it. And if you do have one, you shouldn't anymore," Sven said and folded his arms. "Just wait," the girl said. She plunked the cat into Albert's arms, turned, and went back to the car. After a few moments, she came back and impatiently tossed a card at Sven. "There, see?" Sven caught the driver's license out of the air and held it up to take a look. After a moment, he bent it and put it under his shoe. "What are you doing?" the girl cried. Sven didn't answer and matter-of-factly stomped on the card. The driver's license snapped in half. The girl gaped at Sven in shock. Sven picked up the broken pieces of the card and held it out to her, staring her right in the eye without blinking. "A person like you belongs off the road for the rest of your life." The dark-haired girl gasped loudly, her eyes wide with indignation as she stared at the broken pieces of her driver's license in Sven's hand. "Are you insane?" she yelled, her voice shrill with anger. "You can't just break someone's license. Who do you think you are?" Sven, unfazed by her outburst, shrugged nonchalantly. "Honestly, you shouldn't be driving at all with those skills." "You have no right to destroy my license," the girl sputtered. "Besides, I'm a perfectly good driver." The girl turned to her companion Albert for support. "Albert, tell him. He's being completely unreasonable." Albert, caught off guard, stammered, "Well, technically he might have a point. Stopping suddenly can be dangerous." The girl's jaw dropped in disbelief. "Albert, whose side are you on?" Sven couldn't help but smirk, thoroughly enjoying the moment. "See? Even he agrees with me." The girl bristled, her cheeks flushing with anger. "You don't even know who I am. I have connections, powerful ones." Sven laughed, waving his hand dismissively. "I don't care if you're the Queen of England. You shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car, period." The girl crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "You're going to regret this. Mark my words." Sven just shook his head, still grinning. "The only thing I'll regret is if I ever find myself sharing the highway with you again." Sven was enjoying letting off a little steam, but he also felt like this girl really needed to learn her lesson. If his reflexes weren't as good as they were, he, Chris, and Olivia could have easily ended up in the hospital. Sven leaned against the girl's car, continuing his rant. "Okay, let's start with the basics of driving. Rule 1. The road is not a video game. You can't just stop whenever you feel like it." "But I had a good reason," the girl protested, her arms folded defiantly. Sven shook his head. "A good driver anticipates and reacts smoothly. You don't just slam on the brakes for a cat, or a leaf, or whatever caught your fancy. Albert, standing a bit awkwardly to the side, added, He's right, you know. Your reflexes are good, but they are unpredictable. You react more like a startled cat than a driver. The girl's expression wavered between frustration and introspection. I thought I was doing okay. I mean, I've never been in an accident or anything. Sven raised an eyebrow. That's just luck. Being a good driver isn't about not crashing. It's about creating a safe environment on the road. It's not just about you, it's about everyone else around you. Her face fell, a look of self-doubt creeping in. Am I really that bad? I always wanted to be like a hot race car driver, she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. From the back seat of Sven's car, Olivia, who had been quietly observing the exchange, rolled down her window for a better look at the commotion. Her eyes widened in recognition. That's Devin Garibaldi, she whispered in surprise. A whirlwind of thoughts swirled through her mind. Why is Devin Garibaldi here in New York? And why is she arguing with Sven of all people? Deciding to intervene, Olivia called out, Devin Garibaldi, is that you? Devin turned towards the sound of her voice, her expression shifting from annoyance to surprise as she recognized Olivia. Devin, taken aback by Olivia's sudden appearance, thought to herself in surprise, Olivia, here? What are the odds? I didn't think I'd be seeing her so soon. Olivia, how unexpected to see you here, Devin greeted, her tone a mix of surprise and wariness. Olivia, looking at Devin with a curious expression, asked, Hey, Devin, how's Jeremy doing? I haven't heard much about him lately. Devin quickly sidestepped the question, a practiced smile on her face. Oh, Jeremy's always busy with his things, you know. But hey, what should I do about this cat? Before Olivia could respond, Sven chimed in with a mischievous grin. If you take the cat home, you might be kidnapping it from his family. But if you leave it here, well, it might end up under the wheels of a certain someone's car. Devin's hands went to her hips, her irritation clear. I'll have you know I'm perfectly capable of taking care of a cat. It would be safe and sound with me. Sven chuckled, enjoying the banter. Sure, as long as it stays out of the driveway. Otherwise, its 9 lives might not be enough. Devin, having had enough of Sven's teasing, decisively turned her attention away from him, her expression serious and focused. Albert, please pick up the cat and move it off the side of the road. Let's give it a chance to find its way back to its family, she instructed firmly. Albert did as he was instructed, and Devin watched, purposely avoiding Sven's gaze. When the cat was safely off the road, Devin turned to Olivia and spoke with a pleasant demeanor. Good seeing you, Olivia. I'll be in touch. Sven, watching this exchange, rolled his eyes in annoyance at Devin's abrupt departure. Devin and Albert then returned to their car, this time with Albert taking the driver's side. Sven, still shaking his head, made his way back to the car where Chris and Olivia were waiting. In their car, Devin unleashed a torrent of frustration to Albert. I can't stand that man, Albert. That big, mean boulder of a know-it-all. He ruined my entire mood. She continued, her voice escalating with each word. And New York, it's just full of arrogant men like him, I swear. Jeremy said he wanted me here because Olivia needed protection. But she seems to be doing just fine. I'm the one who needs protecting from all of these insufferable people. Albert listened quietly as Devin vented. Well, I recognize that man. The one who destroyed your license. He interjected cautiously. Devin's eyes snapped to him. Who? Who was he? Albert replied. That was Sven Jorgensen. A determined look overtook Devin's face, her anger turning into resolve. Sven Jorgensen, huh? Well, Albert, I want you to find out everything there is to know about him. I want revenge. No one speaks to me like that. I mean, I'm a great driver, right? Albert nodded, though his expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced of her driving skills. Of course, Devin. I'll start looking into him right away. In the car, Sven was still fuming over the encounter with Devin. He ranted, Can you believe her? Devin Garibaldi is just unbearable. It's a toss-up between what's worse, her overbearing personality or her atrocious driving skills. Chris and Olivia exchanged awkward glances in the back seat, both slightly uncomfortable with Sven's relentless venting. It's like she learned how to drive from watching bumper cars at a carnival. Sven continued, I've seen more graceful maneuvers in a demolition derby. Chris shifted in his seat, trying to offer a sympathetic look towards Sven, while Olivia bit her lip, unsure of how to respond to his tirade. Sven wasn't done, though. And the way she just ignored me, as if I was the one being unreasonable, the audacity. She's the one who nearly caused an accident. Olivia looked out the window, trying to hide her discomfort, while Chris cleared his throat, searching for something to say to possibly diffuse Sven's frustration. Chris finally chimed in, attempting to calm Sven down. Yeah, it was a strange situation, but maybe we should just let it go. Sven shook his head, his expression still incredulous. Let it go? After that display of sheer rudeness? She just sauntered off like I was invisible, and Albert, he barely put up a defense. It's like they live in their own little world. Olivia sighed softly, her gaze still fixed outside, while Chris nodded, trying to appear understanding, but clearly hoping the topic would change soon. The car ride continued with Sven's rants echoing in the confined space, his annoyance with Devin Garibaldi showing no signs of abating anytime soon. Meanwhile, across town, the official Rose Company opening ceremony was in full swing. Mark DeLillo moved through the room, greeting attendees with a practiced charm, trying to protect the image of a strong and confident businessman. Just then, Beatrix walked into the room, her demeanor radiating confidence and purpose. She had a plan, and it was evident in her stride. Following closely behind her were the Coopers, looking around with varying degrees of interest. Ryan Cooper, appearing somewhat unimpressed, leaned towards Beatrix. When are we going to meet this Mark DeLillo? He inquired, his tone suggesting a mix of curiosity and impatience. Beatrix spotted Mark from a distance, noticing his deliberate avoidance of making eye contact with her and the Coopers. She turned to Ryan with a reassuring smile. Be patient. I'll introduce you to Mark at the perfect time, she said. In her mind, Beatrix was already orchestrating the scene. The perfect moment will be when Olivia arrives. That's when we'll make our move. It'll be a real show. As Beatrix navigated through the crowd at the Rose Company launch, guiding the Coopers with a sense of purpose, Ryan Cooper watched her every move intently, skepticism etched on his face. Why exactly does the timing have to be so perfect to meet Mark DeLillo? Ryan inquired, his voice tinged with impatience. Why can't we just approach him now and get straight to business? Beatrix, visibly irritated by his line of questioning, responded with a dismissive roll of her eyes. Ryan, this is the launch event of the Rose Company. Mark's swamped with guests, trying to impress potential investors and clients. It's all about appearances right now. And if we just barge in on him, he'll lump us with the rest of the crowd, not giving us a second thought. She continued, her tone sharp. We need to stand out, be memorable as serious business partners, not just another face in the crowd. Her expression turned condescending. Do you want DeLillo to see us as key players in his business world, or just as another group of party attendees? Ryan's gaze hardened as he listened to Beatrix. I get that we need to make a good impression, he said, but there's a fine line between being strategic and just playing games. Are we here to do business or to play cat and mouse? Beatrix sighed, her frustration growing. It's not just about walking up to him and saying hello, it's about timing, presentation, making sure he knows that we're just not another set of wealthy nobodies. She leaned in closer, her voice low and intense. We need him to see us as equals, as potential allies, not just as people looking for a quick business deal. Ryan crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. I understand the need for strategy, Beatrix, but sometimes directness is the best approach. I'm beginning to question if you're more interested in the theatrics of this event than in securing a solid business opportunity. Beatrix's eyes narrowed and she took a step closer to Ryan. Trust me, Ryan. I know what I'm doing. This isn't about theatrics, it's about securing our future with the Rose Company. Ryan's expression softened slightly, but the doubt lingered. All right, Beatrix. I'll play along for now. But remember, our goal here is to secure a partnership with DeLillo, not to get lost in the crowd or the drama. Beatrix, with a calculated grace, continued to guide the Cooper family around the room, introducing them to various partygoers with a practiced charm. Each introduction was met with polite conversation and exchanged pleasantries, but her eyes intermittently sought out Mark DeLillo. However, every time her gaze landed on Mark, she found him looking away, deliberately avoiding eye contact. A subtle frown creased Beatrix's face each time she noticed Mark's evasive behavior. Ryan, observing the interactions, began to notice the pattern too. He could see that Mark was intentionally avoiding Beatrix, which piqued his curiosity and suspicion. Determined to confront the situation, Beatrix subtly maneuvered the group closer to where Mark was standing. But as they approached, Mark conveniently moved away, mingling with another group of guests. Beatrix's frustration grew, her thoughts racing. What is Mark doing? Why is he avoiding me like this? She wondered internally, her mind trying to decipher his actions. Unwilling to give up, she attempted once more to close the distance between them. Yet as if sensing her approach, Mark excused himself from the conversation he was engaged in and walked away to another part of the room. Beatrix's thoughts continued. What kind of game is he playing? Is he deliberately trying to snub us? Her frustration was mounting, but she maintained her composure outwardly. Ryan, who had been observing the cat-and-mouse game, leaned in closer to Beatrix. It's pretty clear he's avoiding you, he whispered, his tone suggesting a mix of concern and curiosity. Beatrix glanced at Ryan, her expression a mask of control, but her eyes betrayed her annoyance. Ryan Cooper, his skepticism barely contained, confronted Beatrix with a pointed question. Beatrix, is there even a real connection between you and Mark? Or are we just a part of some elaborate show you're putting on? Beatrix, internally fuming at the Coopers' lack of faith, thought, These Coopers, I'm so sick of them. If they continue to question every move I make, I'm going to lose my mind and my temper. Do they not see the effort I'm putting in to carefully maneuver this situation? Ryan, not letting up, probed further. Honestly, what do you know about Mark or the Rose Company? From what I see, you're as lost in this as we are. Was there ever a plan, Beatrix? Or are we just winging it? Brett chimed in, his voice laden with doubt. We put our trust in you, Beatrix, but I'm starting to question that decision. It doesn't look like you have any real inroads with Mark. Nisha, observing the interaction with a critical eye, added her own suspicions. And what about your intentions here, Beatrix? Is this really about business, or is there something more personal in your pursuit of Mark? Brett's suspicion only grew. We've taken every word you've said at face value, Beatrix, but now I'm starting to wonder. Can we trust anything you've told us? How do we even know you're being honest about Melanie? The mention of Melanie struck a raw nerve with Beatrix, her face contorted with a mix of anger and protectiveness. Don't you dare drag Melanie into this. If you cross that line, believe me, you'll regret it. Brett, his anger boiling over, unleashed on Beatrix. You dare threaten us? After all the lies you fed us? His voice grew louder with each word. You've lied about everything. Your connection to Mark, where Melanie is, everything. It might have been better if you hadn't come back at all. Beatrix remained silent, her expression unyielding as Brett continued his tirade, his face red with fury. You parade us around like puppets, promising connections and deals. What have you actually done, Beatrix? Where are the results? You talk about strategy and the right moment, but what do we have to show for it? Brett raged. He questioned her competence with a scathing tone. Can you even deliver on any of your promises? Or are you just as clueless and unprepared as you look right now? In his anger, Brett raised his hand as if to strike Beatrix. however, met his gaze with a composed rage that was chilling. "I suggest you think twice before laying a hand on me, Brett," Beatrix warned, her voice low but menacing. Brett, his hands still raised, hesitated as he locked eyes with Beatrix. Her stare was unwavering, a silent threat that she was not to be underestimated. Nisha, her voice dripping with accusation, turned to Beatrix. "You're like a sick little puppy dog following Mark around this party. It's pathetic, really. Do you have a crush on him or something?" She didn't stop there. "Or maybe it's all just an act, using your feminine ways to seduce him, to get what you want. It's clear you have no real connection to Mark, or to the business world for that matter. So I guess you have to resort to using your other assets." Brett chimed in, his tone half mocking, half serious. "Maybe using her feminine gifts is the best shot she has at climbing to the top. Seems like a solid strategy to me." Beatrix opened her mouth to argue, to defend her integrity, but Brett cut her off before she could even speak. "You're truly your father's daughter if that's been your plan all along," Brett sneered, his words laced with disdain. Beatrix, her patience fraying, retorted, "My plan has always been to connect you with Mark, nothing more. This is about business." Her words fell on deaf ears as Nisha, Brett, and Ryan continued their conversation, blatantly ignoring Beatrix's explanation. Nisha mused aloud. "Honestly, if Beatrix could just charm Mark with her seductive ways, we might actually get somewhere." Ryan nodded in agreement. "It's not the worst idea. Sometimes charm and subtlety can open doors that business talks can't." Brett added, "And let's be honest, Beatrix does have a certain appeal. It could work to our advantage." Nisha, with a calculating glint in her eye, elaborated on her theory. Yes, this is it. Beatrix, using her divine feminine assets, will be exactly what we need. Mark DeLillo is a man, after all. Why not exploit that? And men can be stupid when they're asked to think with something other than their brains," Ryan added as the plan began to settle amongst the Coopers. "So that's it. Beatrix will let Mark indulge in her better parts, and we'll get the deal we were promised. Right, Beatrix?" Ryan said as he turned to Beatrix. Beatrix stood there, seething with anger, her respect for the Coopers crumbling with each passing word. She couldn't believe the level of disrespect and objectification coming from the slimy family standing next to her. "I fucking hate the Coopers," Beatrix thought as her eye shot daggers at each of the family members. "The rest of my family is utterly useless. I hope it won't be long before I can get rid of them for good." Nisha leaned closer to Beatrix, her voice laced with a manipulative sweetness. "You know, Beatrix, if you really want to catch Mark's attention, maybe you should consider making your outfit a bit more revealing." Brett, nodding in agreement, chimed in with a smarmy grin. "Absolutely. A little more skin never hurt anyone. Men are visual creatures. It's all about giving them something to look at." Ryan, with a sly smirk, added, "And don't forget the neckline. A little suggestion goes a long way. Leave something to the imagination, you know?" Beatrix stood there, her body rigid with suppressed anger. Her face was a mask of controlled fury, but her clenched fists betrayed the storm brewing within. Inside, Beatrix was seething, her mind racing with disbelief and disgust. "I can't believe these people. These older, lecherous snakes are actually telling me to parade myself like some showpiece to lure in Mark DeLillo?" The audacity of their suggestions made her skin crawl. The sheer nerve of them, dictating how I dress, how I should present myself, as if I'm some object to be ogled at their command. Her thoughts continued, a raging torrent of fury and contempt. "It's taking every ounce of my strength not to end every single one of them right here, right now, to make them regret ever speaking to me in such a demeaning manner." But outwardly, Beatrix maintained her poise, despite the fire burning in her eyes. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was ice cold, each word dripping with disdain. I am here as a businesswoman, not as bait for your little fishing expedition. My attire, my body is not up for discussion or manipulation. Nisha, unfazed, retorted with a dismissive wave of her hand. Oh, come on, Beatrix. We're just trying to give you some friendly advice. It's all part of the game. Brett, leaning back with a smug expression, added, Exactly. Sometimes you have to play the game to win, Beatrix. It's not personal, it's business. Ryan, his eyes gleaming with a predatory glint, said, And in business, as in life, you use every tool at your disposal, including your natural assets. Beatrix's response was a hiss of contempt. Your idea of business is warped and archaic. I refuse to stoop to such degrading tactics. Nisha continued, her voice patronizingly. Beatrix, darling, let me give you a few tips on flirting. It's all about subtlety. A gentle touch here, a lingering look there. She continued, getting more into her element. Lock eyes with him. Hold his gaze just a moment longer than necessary. It's all about creating a connection, an unspoken invitation. Ryan, eager to contribute, added, You see, men like to feel desired, and a little laugh at his jokes, maybe a gentle touch on the arm. Show interest in his words. Lean in when he speaks. Make him feel like he's the most interesting man in the room. Beatrix, internally screaming, tried to drown out their voices. Stay calm, Beatrix. Don't let them see how they're getting to you. Just focus on the goal. Brett, not to be outdone, jumped in with his own set of tips. Men like Mark, they respond to certain cues. A playful hair flip, a lingering gaze, a subtle bite of the lip. You've got to show interest, but keep him guessing. He elaborated further. Compliment him, but not too much. You don't want to come off as desperate. Make him feel important, stroke his ego a bit. It's about making him feel like he's winning you over. Beatrix's mind was racing. I can't wait for Olivia to show up. I need to take matters into my own hands now. With a deep breath, she steeled herself, lifting her head high and walking over to Mark with unwavering confidence. The Coopers, puzzled by this sudden change in her demeanor, trailed behind her, whispering among themselves. Is she really going to do it? Brett murmured. I think she's actually going to introduce herself to Mark, Nisha replied, a hint of surprise in her voice. Ryan watched with interest. This should be good. Let's see if she's got what it takes. Approaching Mark, Beatrix spoke up. Mr. DeLillo, I'd like a moment to speak with you. Mark, recognizing her, was dismissive. I'm quite busy at the moment, maybe some other time. In his mind, Mark was adamant. I need to keep away from the Cooper family. They're nothing but trouble and the last thing I need right now. Unfazed, Beatrix dropped her bombshell. Have you heard of thorns? Mark stopped in his tracks, his confusion evident. Thorns? How does she know about that? He thought, his mind racing. Beatrix watched him, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. She enjoyed the moment, a revelation dawning on his face. Mark's realization hit him like a ton of bricks. She's Thorns. The person sent to help me is a Cooper. As Mark continued to stare at Beatrix and the Coopers, he didn't stop the chatter in his mind. A Cooper? They sent someone from the Cooper family to help me in this game against Olivia? Of all the families, why them? He quickly masked his shock, schooling his features into a neutral, professional expression. Stay calm, Mark. Keep it together. Beatrix, with a poised smile, extended her hand to Mark. Mr. DeLillo, I'm Beatrix Cooper, and these are members of my family, the Coopers. We've been following the rise of the Rose Company with great interest. It's truly impressive, and we believe there could be potential for a fruitful business venture between us. Mark, maintaining his professional demeanor, addressed Beatrix and her family with a courteous nod. Miss Cooper, the pleasure is mine. Your family's reputation precedes you, and I'm looking forward to exploring potential avenues where interests might align. Let's certainly stay in touch. Beatrix nodded as she responded. Absolutely, Mr. DeLillo. We'll be sure to reach out and discuss further. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Turning away from Mark, Beatrix walked off with an air of confidence, her steps measured and graceful. Her family trailed behind her, each member trying to muster a smile, maintaining the facade of composure and success. Beatrix, seemingly unfazed by the encounter, casually approached a nearby table adorned with an array of exquisite appetizers. She gracefully picked up a small plate and began to select a few items. Nisha, Brett, and Ryan quickly gathered around her, their faces etched with frustration and urgency. The veneer of smiles they'd held in front of Mark faded. Nisha was the first to confront Beatrix. "What was that, Beatrix? I gave you advice on how to handle this, and you just ignored it." Brett chimed in, his voice laced with irritation. "And what about flirting with Mark? You didn't even try to charm him. You were supposed to make an impression." Nisha, her frustrating mounting, accused Beatrix further. "You didn't even show any skin. We agreed you'd play the part, use your assets. Why didn't you follow the plan?" Beatrix, her anger boiling over, shot back. "Your plan was degrading and disrespectful. I'm not some pawn in your slimy games. I refuse to stoop to such demeaning tactics." Nisha retorted, her voice rising. "Oh, so now you're too good for our advice? We're trying to secure a business deal here, Beatrix." Beatrix, undeterred, argued back fiercely. "There's a difference between securing a deal and selling out my integrity. I won't play your sexist games." Brett, his tone mocking, added, "Oh, come on, Beatrix. A little flirting never hurt anyone. It's just business." Beatrix, her voice dripping with sarcasm, replied, "Just business? Is that what you call undermining a woman's professionalism? I am here to negotiate, not to bat my eyelashes." Ryan jumped in, his words sharp. "You could have at least tried to be a bit more enticing, for the sake of the deal." Beatrix, her patience at its end, snapped, "Enticing? I am not here to be enticing. I am here as a businesswoman, not as your seductress." From across the room, Mark DeLillo observed the heated exchange between Beatrix and her family. His thoughts turned with disbelief. A Cooper. Of all the people they could have sent to aid me in this game against Olivia, I was expecting someone more formidable. This is a letdown. But then again, maybe this is the twist I didn't know I needed. Deciding to seize the opportunity, Mark made up his mind. Time to make the best of this unexpected alliance. Mark strode confidently towards the arguing Coopers, his presence commanding attention. "Excuse me," he interjected, his voice cutting through the tension. He turned to Beatrix, offering a polite yet firm request. "Miss Cooper, may I have a moment? Perhaps we could go for a walk, discuss a few things." Beatrix, taken aback by his sudden appearance and request, hesitated for a moment, her expression a mix of shock and curiosity. Quickly regaining her composure, she nodded, "Of course, Mr. DeLillo." As she walked away with Mark, leaving her family behind in a state of surprise, a mix of emotions played across her face. Curiosity, caution, and a newfound determination to see where this unexpected turn of events would lead. As Beatrix walked away with Mark, Nisha, Ryan, and Brett watched intently. Brett, with a hint of pride in his voice, remarked, "Maybe Beatrix can get the job done after all, but in private." From a distance, Erica Cooper, unnoticed by the others, observed the scene with a look of sadness in her eyes. She watched her daughter, a mix of concern and sorrow etched on her face. Erica's internal thoughts were heavy with emotion. I never wanted this for Beatrix, to stoop so low for the sake of our family. She deserves better than this. Nisha, still focused on the departing pair, said confidently, "All Mark needs is a taste, and then the deal will be as good as done." Erica overheard Nisha's comment. She felt a pang of regret as her mind mulled. As much as I hate to admit it, Beatrix has to do this. Our family is in dire straits, and if this is what it takes to climb out of this hellhole, so be it. She'll do what needs to be done. Why haven't I noticed how beautiful Beatrix is until now? Ryan Cooper said as he watched Beatrix, his niece, walk away. He let out a low whistle. Because she certainly is. His wife Nisha suppressed a gag. Ryan, she breathed with disgust. We are out in public. We are, dear. Ryan sniffed, putting his hands in his pockets. So if you scold me in public again, I think you'll find that the way I'm behaving right now is downright saintly. You enjoy a lot of privileges. I could easily take them away. Nisha saw red. She twisted her face in anger, but held her tongue. How much have I endured for this family? She thought silently to herself as she watched her husband stroll away. And how much more of it can I take? She followed him, thinking about his leering eyes, and fantasizing about digging her nails into them. Elsewhere in New York, Sven drove Olivia and Chris back from the airport. All righty, miss, where am I taking you? He asked Olivia. The park company? Home? Neither, Olivia replied with a smirk. Take me to the Rose Company. Chris frowned. Why are you going there? He wanted to say that he didn't trust Mark DeLillo one bit, but he held that thought back. Mark looked like an evil person from head to toe without a decent bone in his body. Chris knew men like that. They weren't motivated by anything besides saving their own skin and conquering others. Mark was one of the cruelest sorts of rich men. Olivia shrugged. Everyone knows about the grand opening. If I go, it makes a statement, but if I don't go, it makes a louder one. I don't think that's the one I necessarily want to make right now. Chris sighed but didn't argue. I will go with you. Oh, you want to be my date? Olivia turned to Chris with a grin, teasing him. Chris rolled his eyes, trying not to smile back. Yes, I want to be your date. We're official in the eyes of the world, after all. Olivia pretended to be offended. You don't look like you mean it. Come on, sweetheart, give me a smile. Chris laughed. Men don't owe you a smile. Olivia put on a deeper voice with a thick New York accent. Hey, baby, I'll put a smile on your face. Chris stiffly grinned. This is a smile, satisfied? Barely, Olivia said in faux exasperation. That's not a real smile, it's cheating. Okay, show me what kind of smile isn't cheating, Chris replied. Olivia gasped. Chris, you can't tell a woman to smile. Wow, Sven chimed in. Is it hot in here, or is it just you guys? Chris gave Sven a stern look through the rearview mirror. Sven, he warned. What? Sven asked. I'm just saying, you have a love for the ages. The chemistry is palpable. It's the kind of chemistry that's done in a lab where you have to use the eye wash station afterwards, but still. Chris laughed and put his hands over his eyes. I can't handle this coming from both of you. Just take us to this grand opening. Sven smiled, satisfied with himself. He turned to Olivia. Oh, don't you need to change into new clothes for the event? Haven't you both been wearing those clothes since yesterday? No need, Olivia said with a wave of her hand. The grand opening of the Rose Company is not worth us changing. What a power move. Sven gave her a look, impressed. You should be selling a 12-part audio course of this stuff. Chris nodded. She should. If either of you change your mind, Sven offered, I have deodorant in the glove compartment. He made eye contact with Chris again. It's right here. Just drive, Chris retorted, annoyed. Olivia smiled as they smoothly drove the rest of the way to the park company. Sven left the car with the valet, and the three of them walked the red carpet into the Rose Company together. All of the staff, from the valet to the people at the door to the waiters and waitresses inside, were all tall, rail-thin models in deep red rose print suits. The moment that Olivia and Chris entered the banquet hall, all of the guests inside seemed to stop mid-sentence to watch them. The gossip news and influencers had all been talking about Olivia and Chris that morning, and they just walked into a new event wearing the same formal clothes they wore the day before at the Chamber of Commerce banquet. Everyone in attendance was stunned. A staff member greeted them with a nod. Chairman Johnson, Chris Jones. Olivia smiled and nodded back graciously. Hello, how are you? She walked in lockstep with Chris. Sven a couple steps behind. Sven somehow had already found himself a cocktail. Chris shot him a look and left them to find drinks for Olivia and himself. Olivia noticed a hateful gaze from a familiar face. She quickly looked away, surprised, then pretended she was casually looking past them to try to make sure it was who she thought it was that hated her so much. Nisha Cooper. Sven narrowed his eyes. Why is that woman in the Cooper family staring at you like that? I'd be careful she doesn't run over and yank out one of your earrings. Olivia sighed, indifferent. Oh, it's probably because someone used me when I was in the Cooper family to cause her husband to cheat on her with their daughter-in-law. Sven raised his eyebrows. Messy, messy. So this is basically Real Housewives of New York? Olivia smiled. They already have that, but yes. Sven sipped his cocktail. If I hadn't seen them today, I would have assumed everyone in the Cooper family had gone bankrupt. Olivia laughed. What a coincidence. Me too. Olivia scanned the hall for Mark DeLillo, but she did not see him. Chris returned with champagne flutes, and Olivia took one. She asked him in a very low voice, Do you think Mark DeLillo could be fooled? Yes, Chris said immediately in a whisper. And I think the person sent by his mysterious handler to assist him is in this hall. Oh? Olivia scanned the crowd anew. Who do you think it is? I think... Chris's gaze settled over Olivia's shoulder. He gave her a mischievous smile. I think it's someone you know. Olivia, alarmed, frowned and turned to follow Chris's gaze behind her. A man and a woman turned around, revealing that it was Mark DeLillo, with a woman in an evening dress behind him that stunned Olivia. A murderous impulse radiated through Olivia's entire body at the sight of her. Beatrix Cooper. Thorns. An image flashed into Olivia's mind. The image was of Pandora, the woman Steve Shook's grandfather had married right before she died, right before Beatrix Cooper killed her. A chill spread through Olivia's limbs. She took in a sharp breath as she realized Mark and Beatrix were heading toward her. My dear, Chris said softly as he reached out and wrapped his arm around Olivia's waist and kissed her on the forehead. Compose yourself. Your hatred is all over your face. Olivia immediately came back to her senses, relaxing her face and body. She gave a polite smile as Mark and Beatrix approached. President DeLillo, what a lovely event. Thank you, Mark replied with a gloating smile. He had seen how hostile Olivia was feeling, but he assumed that was because he'd successfully threatened her. He wanted her to feel that way. He was reveling in it. This is just the beginning, he thought silently to himself. I will destroy Olivia bit by bit, and I will start with her park company. Beatrix Cooper returned Olivia's polite smile. Miss Johnson, she purred, a long time no see. Beatrix stretched out her hand. Olivia looked at Beatrix's hand and wanted nothing more than to crush it with her powers. She reached out her own hand and delicately took it. Yes, a very long time. Both of their palms were cold but steady. The two enemies held eye contact for a brief moment. One of them would win, and the other would lose. Mark DeLillo frowned in polite incredulity. You two know each other. He tapped his own forehead. Of course, forgive me. You are both from one of the 4 big families. Of course you've crossed paths. Olivia narrowed her eyes. We are more like acquaintances. I've seen Miss Cooper in passing. Beatrix laughed lightly. Miss Johnson, you must be joking. Excuse me for asking, Olivia said, holding Beatrix's gaze. I remember that you have a younger sister. Her name is Melanie Cooper, right? That is her, yes, Beatrix answered impassively. She is currently studying in Europe. Studying in Europe? Olivia smiled slyly. That is not what I heard. I thought you two had both been banished by the Cooper family. Beatrix's face fell, but she recomposed herself. Miss Johnson still likes to joke as much as she always did. Olivia was pleased that this got to Beatrix, and it showed. That's right, I do. Beatrix blinked, looking at the people around them to check whether they seemed to have heard. Nobody better have heard that. She thought silently to herself. Nobody can know that we were banished. It would jeopardize everything. I have to admit, I noticed that you're both wearing the same clothes you did at the event yesterday. Mark spoke loudly with a smile, hoping to embarrass Olivia and Chris. Though I do appreciate seeing Chairman Olivia Johnson and Chris Jones come to celebrate my new company in any state. Oh, right, Olivia replied breezily, completely unbothered. We just remembered that we had to come to this and didn't want to bother with pulling something new together. And I'm so sorry, by the way, President DeLillo, for accidentally stealing all your headlines. It's fine. Mark held back his anger and maintained a tight smile. Olivia sipped her drink. I know you must have been sponsoring the Chamber of Commerce banquet because you wanted the coverage, so I do feel so bad. We did get some coverage, Mark said, raising a finger. Did you? Olivia asked with a frown. Was it past page 10? Because I stopped reading there. But I didn't see any mention in any of the major papers. Mark scoffed. I don't blame you for not being in the know, because it won't be published until next month. But my publicist was able to get us featured in several airplane magazines. Wow, Olivia said flatly. Mark sighed. The mainstream news always likes to pay more attention to messy things. The more someone's private life is out there and looks scandalous or inappropriate, the more the media wants to talk about it. That's right, Olivia said like they understood each other. She knew Mark was trying to needle her and acted instead like they were in complete agreement. Then she counterattacked. I really didn't expect this either. Who knew that I would attract so much attention just by eating ice cream? What a headache. She pointed at him with a smile. An ice cream headache. She laughed and he stiffly laughed along. Olivia paused for a moment. I don't know what those reports are thinking. Is a story about me eating ice cream really more important than the opening of Mark DeLillo's new company today? She shrugged. A lot of people seem to think so. But don't worry, that doesn't mean they're right. Mark tried to smile at her comment, but his true feelings made it look instead like he smelled something bad. My whole plan before she got here was to scold her for stealing the headlines. He thought angrily to himself. But she just did it all for me, and turned it on me somehow. She's shameless. Of course that isn't right. Beatrix stepped in with her own fake smile, recognizing that Mark was completely unable to handle the situation himself. It really is frustrating how all these reporters act when someone like Olivia tries to keep anything private. They and all of their readers frivolously nitpick the public parts of your life and assume such dirty, vile things about you. Olivia did not know exactly what Beatrix was insinuating and felt off balance for the first time in the conversation. What vile, dirty things are they assuming about me? She thought silently to herself. Wait a minute. She's just getting in your head, Olivia. Ignore her. She realized that of the people currently here, Beatrix was the most formidable opponent. Olivia quickly reached into Beatrix's mind to see if there was some deeper, darker meaning behind her words, but nothing stood out to her. Sven interrupted them. Miss Cooper, what is your relationship with President DeLillo? His eyes flashed dangerously at him, but he was undeterred. I'm just curious. We are friends, Beatrix said sweetly, locking her eyes with Sven. Sven raised his eyebrows. It doesn't sound like it. He seemed to have a mocking expression on his face. Beatrix laughed. I'm sorry, I don't understand. She searched her mind for what she might have said. She was only verbally sparring with Olivia. She was sure of it. Sven continued. You just said that the reporters and all their readers are spending their time being frivolous and assuming dirty things. If I'm not mistaken, Mark just told us that he is among the readers who saw Chris and Olivia in the news. The expression on Mark's face completely froze. Sven shook his head. That must mean you think Mark is vile and frivolous too. So if the two of you are friends, whew, I hope you can work this one out. I just want to stick up for you, Mark. Olivia acted like she was displeased with this comment. Oh, Sven, stop talking nonsense. In reality, she loved everything about what Sven said and the way Beatrix and Mark were reacting. You've embarrassed Beatrix and Mark. Not at all, Beatrix retorted. Oh, good, Olivia replied. I know Mark is new to New York. He just got here. There are so many things he doesn't understand. I'm sure you can sympathize, Sven. Being new someplace and not even knowing you're bumbling around through all the new customs. Maybe they don't have gossip news in Chicago. Not a lot happens there, right? It's normal to find this new and exciting. Mark had an ugly expression on his face. Olivia kept going. I'm sure that after Chicago, New York is so overwhelming. We should offer cultural tutoring or something for people like you, Mark. You, Mark snapped, about to go berserk. Do you think I'm some sort of a bumpkin? Olivia drew back. Did I say something wrong? Didn't you say yesterday that Chicago has different rules from New York City? I was just trying to be welcoming. Olivia nodded knowingly. Oh, or is it like Miss Cooper said? You're just interested in other people's private lives and can't help thinking dirty things. I am not a bumpkin or a pervert, Mark cried indignantly. He turned to Beatrix. Do something. Beatrix spoke smoothly as though Mark were not losing his mind. Miss Johnson, I think you might have misunderstood what I said. Oh? Olivia tilted her head and looked from Beatrix to Sven and back. I'm not sure what I could have misunderstood. Actually, Beatrix put a hand on Mark's shoulder. I know that will smooth things over after all. I know what will smooth things over after all. I think that... Forget it. Olivia waved her hand and finished her drink. It's not very important anyway. Olivia was supremely enjoying toying with Beatrix Cooper. I wonder how far I can push her before she loses her composure. Olivia thought silently to herself. Beatrix's face was still perfectly posed, but her fists were clenched by her sides. As long as Miss Johnson is happy. Mark was still struggling to hold back his own anger and wanted to refute what Olivia had said. I do think it is important, actually. Beatrix raised a hand in his direction and he quieted. How humiliating. Olivia thought silently to herself, delighted. Mark gets it wrong every time he tries to speak up. And now he even has a handler struggling to control him. Olivia's such an idiot, Mark thought silently to himself. Someday, I'll make her shut up. I'll show her. Chris looked at Olivia impatiently. How much longer do you think we'll be here? We'll go soon, Olivia replied and looked back to Mark apologetically. I'm sorry, President DeLillo. My fiancé did not mean to offend you. Every time he encounters boring conversations with people whose intelligence is beneath him, his patience is not very good. Mark gritted his teeth and said simply, Yes. His nostrils flared. You know, I have prepared for quite a long time for this opening banquet. If you find that it is boring and tasteless and are unhappy, then you can... Beatrix shot him a look and he reconsidered his words. Then you can feel free to enjoy the rest of your night as you see fit. Oh, that's such a good idea, Sven said gratefully. Olivia, why don't we leave? He's right. This place is indeed a bit tacky. All right then, I'll make my way out. Olivia shrugged. I'm so happy to hear that President DeLillo does not mind. No problem, Mark said as he felt the muscles in his face stiffen. Olivia, Chris, and Sven turned to leave, Olivia putting her arm almost completely through Chris's. But then Olivia turned back. Miss Cooper? She paused, speaking slowly. Give my regards to that mysterious person. Beatrix nodded. Oh, I will. And Miss Melanie Cooper, I was so sad to hear that she was sent away. Please tell her I said hello as well. Of course, Beatrix intoned, her face expressionless and voice cold. Olivia looked from Mark back to Beatrix. She finally smiled at Mark. President DeLillo, to be honest, you should be glad that Miss Cooper came to help you. Otherwise... Olivia trailed off, laughing to herself. What could you possibly be going on about? Mark's anger, which he had been struggling to keep under control, finally boiled over once again. Olivia gestured to the event around them. I mean, from what I know of your work, at least. Olivia wrinkled her nose in disgust. Seems like you need all the help you can get. Mark just stared blankly at Olivia, feeling like he couldn't believe how many separate times she'd managed to trample on his dignity in one conversation. And without such a capable person by her side, Olivia said, who knows what would happen to you? With this, she turned and walked away. Mark's jaw hung open. He couldn't believe how insolent Olivia was being. I want to see her dead, Mark thought, his inner monologue dripping with violence. No, I want to be the one to do it. I want to watch the life blink out of Olivia Johnson's eyes.